What a powerful film, right? I neglected to introduce myself earlier, so I'm Topiary Landberg. I am the manager of the Mind the Gap program here, the Gender Equity Initiative. I also forgot to say that Arrest the Midwife is one of our active cinema titles, which means that we do a really special thing in Mill Valley. We choose certain documentary films to community partner with for to help to activate the film in the local community. So I just wanted to mention that, and our second screening will be an active cinema screening with the head of active cinema. But for right now, we're gonna I want to talk with you, and we'll also open it up for questions, but I wanted to start off just, first of all, asking if there's any updates about the political situation in New York, or if you want to share any just specific things about the political situation.
And very unfortunately, there is not an update. It takes a really long time for a bill to get passed, particularly in New York State. It's probably one of the hardest places. And so it's just been blocked. It's interesting because licensing, their licenses are not under the jurisdiction of the health department. It's actually education. And education are just not allowing this to happen, which is just insanity, because no one else wants to serve in these areas, and you have these trained women who are amazing at their jobs, who want to work there, and they're saying, no, you can't do it. So it's just, it makes no sense.
I mean, you really make that point so powerfully at the end when we see Liz driving a school bus. And I mean, throughout the film, I was just so enraged in so many moments. But you know, what an incredible story this is. And I guess I want to start us off to just ask you, how did you find this story? And how did a South African like yourself, like, how did you get access to this community? Maybe you could just talk a little bit about that.
Well, to start with how I came to this story, when my wife and I decided to have children, we kind of did what we thought was the way you did it, which was to go to directly to the medical model. And my wife carried both of our children. And through the process, she just said, this doesn't feel good to me, this feels wrong, I just don't feel comfortable, this is just, it doesn't feel right. And eventually somebody said, well, look, you know, this isn't working out for you, you're not getting pregnant, why don't you meet with a friend of mine who's a midwife? And we met with her, and it was just so striking, the difference in terms of the experience that we had with her. Like, she really got to know us, she sat down, she understood what we wanted. And so that was our first kind of entry into the midwifery model of care, which was so different to what we had experienced in the medical system. And so my daughter was delivered by a midwife in a midwifery center that was attached to a hospital, which was the perfect place for us. We had, you know, medicine and midwifery side by side. We felt safe, and it was a beautiful birth experience. And so when we decided to have a second child, we went back to the same midwifery practice, which was in very high demand. So we went back really early because we were like, we want to make sure that we get in and we're on the schedule to have this practice for our second child, and only to find that it had been shut down. And so that kind of sparked the question, why would a midwifery practice attached to a hospital that has this huge demand, it's really difficult to get in, why would it shut down?
This is in South Africa?
No, in New York, Brooklyn. I lived in New York for many years. And so it just started us questioning, like, what's going on here? And, you know, as we started to dig deeper, kind of discovered the pressure from the medical industry against midwives, not only in New York, but really across the US. And so that kind of started the journey. And
how did you get connected with the Amish and Mennonite community in upstate?
So I decided that I wanted to make a film to explore this issue about midwifery, just because we had had such a profound experience with midwives in our own personal experience. And so I was just looking for, stories, and I stumbled on Liz's story. There was an article in the New York Times. And I called her up, and I eventually got hold of her, and it was just before Christmas, just before Christmas. And she was like, well, the grand jury's meeting, and I'm not sure what's going to happen. And I was like, there's no way they're going to indict you. Like, why would they indict you? Like, she told me all the, the details of the case. I was like, this is going to get chucked out. It's not going to go anywhere. But in the event that something happens, let's talk. And I remember very clearly I'd booked a vacation home to South Africa and literally was packing my bags to get on the plane. And Liz called me and said, I've been indicted on 95 felony charges. Canceled the vacation, assembled my amazing team, who I could not have made this film without, and we literally went up and started filming. We started filming her story, and I knew that I couldn't make it without the community involvement. And so, we can go into, if you wanted me to just go straight into access.
Yeah, because I think you were saying earlier to me that the incredible thing is that this community is generally against being represented. So as a documentarian, this film is such incredible access. So yeah, I would love to hear you talk about that.
We knew we couldn't make it without the community. And so Liz and I, and Liz's daughter, who I interviewed, but we just couldn't find a place for her in the film, and she was very happy about that. We talked, and I was like, look, why don't we just have a lunch? Let's just sit down and let's meet, and we'll discuss, and we'll see what happens. And we had this amazing discussion with these women, and I think, I get a lot of credit for my access, but I really do want to say that they are so passionate about their midwives, and they care so much for them, that I think that was a huge part of the impetus for them being involved in the film. And we also tread very slowly. So the first, you'll notice that some of the interviews are from behind the head, and those were the first interviews that we did. And when we shot those interviews, we literally had a monitor, and we were like, okay, have a look at this. Is this okay? How do you feel? Do you feel comfortable? Should we show less of, and we let them basically direct the shot for those first interviews. And then as I spent more and more time in the community, it kind of became this self-selecting process. And I say, I landed up with the ball busters of the Mennonite community, because these women are so powerful and so strong. And they were like, I'm going to be on camera. Yes, I'm going to speak out. And I always say, I'm a gay Jewish South African. We come from very different worlds. And I think that we had also this mutual curiosity. I was curious about their culture. They were very curious about the filmmaking process. There were times, there's one pivotal moment in the making of this film where I overstepped. And I was filming, I was shooting, and I used to shoot a lot, but I don't do that so much anymore. And when you don't pick up a camera every day, I was just nervous and get the shot, as a filmmaker, you're get the shot, and I'm filming and I need to get it. And it was Lisa's arraignment. And I was in there with the camera in her face, and she literally shut me down so hard, and I realized in that moment, we worked it out. I apologized, and I really realized what I had done in that moment. And there was nothing more important than the trust of this community. And so from that point on, I was the shot never matters. The trust of this community is way more important than anything, because when you are making a film and something's amazing happening in front of the camera, you want to capture it. And it was just the realization that was not the important part of the filmmaking process.
That's ethical filmmaking, that the trust and the collaboration with the community is the most important thing to being able to tell their story.
And just to that point, so I have to point out that, like, I gave my editor very little footage. And so I just want to shout out to my editor, Rachel Schumann, who did the most amazing job with very little, because we didn't want to overstep shooting how much we shot for this film.
Well, it's a beautifully edited film. I mean, I've seen it before, but seeing it on the big screen, it really came home to me how powerful it is. I'm wondering if you all might have some questions for Elaine. Yes, right there. So I'm going to repeat the questions. So the question is, have you shared it with the community, the film?
Yes, I have, only with the people that are in the film. So I was I was fine with showing it to Liz and Melissa's such a ball buster, and Liz, obviously, you know, we had discussed making the film before we even started filming. The person I was most scared of showing to was Lisa, because she's Mennonite, and, you know, oftentimes she would be like, I'm fine, and then she had these moments of like, maybe don't shoot this, maybe don't shoot that, and so I was worried about what she was going to think of the film, and her response was, which was so amazing to me, was, I guess I'm going to have to start signing autographs now.
I would agree with her.
And she is I was like, this film would not be this film without Lisa. And then the members of the community, like Catholic, you know, the people that are in it have seen the film. And then I was like, yeah, and we'll have this community screening and we'll show the film. And they were like, no, you're not doing that. They were like, no, we'll show it to who we want when we want to. And I was like, that. So I literally, like, as we go through the kind of rollout of this film, they're in charge of how, you know, how it gets shown in the community.
Yes. Did you all hear the questions? So one question is, what can we do politically? And the second is, how can she get the film to her friends in New York? And it's going to be on PBS, right?
Yeah, so the film is going to be on PBS, and we are screening in New York, and
At Doc NYC?
at Doc NYC in November. Write letters, and if
Who would we write letters to?
the education department.
Of New York City?
Yes, New York State.
New York
New York
State.
State Education Department. And I also want to say, just like, the one thing about this film is that, given the crazy times that we are now in, just to watch these women who are so powerful and so steadfast, like, just steadily writing and doing what they do. They wrote so many postcards that like, the assembly members and senators couldn't even get their mailbox. Like, they were literally taking bags of mail away. So it does make a difference. So maybe we should start writing letters to the federal government as well. I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's start jamming those mailboxes too.
Yes, question back there.
It did, because they've been trying to get a bill on the table.
So the question is, it was more of a comment, right? That in the end, the bill hasn't passed in New York, right? So the question is, is it effective to write letters? Oh. Do you want to respond to that?
So they've been trying to get a bill on the table for years. This has been ongoing for many, many years. So the fact that this happened, like, I can say that the Amish and Mennonites, together with the BIPOC community that joined forces, resulted in the bill actually getting written and on the table. So
It's not done yet.
it's not done yet. And I mean, my best, like, if I had to say what my outcome for this film is, like, is that it gets this bill pushed through, that we bring enough attention and shame in New York to what they're doing, that this is the final step in that process.
I hope so too. Here's my
So the question is, why did the birth center in Brooklyn close, and why are these indictments happening? Why do you think they are? I mean, in some ways you answer it in the film, right? In that you're sort of pushing for us to recognize the money interest in corporate medicine, right?
I mean, I can easily answer that question. So the midwifery center that we actually attended, there is the Brooklyn Birth Center, which is now also shut down, but this was actually New York City. What's happening in the medical industry, which is happening in the entertainment industry, is that these hospitals are getting these big monopolies are hospitals. There's now these hospital systems. So it's not like we have individual hospitals anymore. There's these big hospital systems that have hospitals everywhere. So what's happening there is that it's becoming more and more corporate. And so at the top level now, the healthcare system is run by business. Like, they're so far removed from the actual day-to-day running of a hospital. And if you look at the dollar and cents, it's not the most, midwifery is not a lucrative practice for them. What is lucrative is the woman comes into a hospital, she has Pitocin, then she has an epidural. So she gets Pitocin, her contractions get way more painful, she has an epidural. The epidural causes the heart rate to baby's heart rate to maybe dip. Then she has a C-section. So now you've paid for an anesthetist, your OR is being used, maybe the baby will end up in the NICU, even better. That's lucrative. Having a woman take a hospital bed to deliver a baby naturally and let her labor naturally is not profitable.
And it takes a way longer usually too, right? I love that line where your character is talking about appreciating the slow way they want to give birth, right? On their own time.
In their own time, and what's happening in the hospital system is now you're on the clock, and if you're not delivering, like, the doctor's not waiting around. They're losing money. They also can't claim from insurance as much as they can for a OB and all the other things. So it's much more lucrative to do that model of birth. And then the second question was why a baby died and somebody had to be blamed. And it's not only happening in New York, it's happening across the country. If you ever look at the news and look for midwifery in the news, midwives, it's always the sensationalist story of midwife got dragged is being accused of this, that, and the other because a baby died. Unfortunately, it does happen, and it happens in hospitals as well. And our shocking statistics are not coming from home births or midwife-attended births. Our shocking statistics are coming from the hospital system.
There's a couple hand ups in the back. The question is, how did the husbands and the fathers feel in the courtroom, and did they have a say?
Absolutely. They, like the men in the community supported their wives, and it's a very patriarchal community, but I like to think that the women actually have more power. A lot of these women have a lot of power, and the men really did support the woman in this fight, and they want home birth just as much as the women do. And they did come out and support in their own way. For example, like Melissa's birth house, like they built that. So there is this, this partnership between the midwives and the community. I did interview a community leader, but we just didn't find a place for him in the film. And I had so much more access to the women because they were around and they were engaged in this issue. And so, that's...
Unfortunately, I think we have to wrap up, but maybe Elaine will be kind enough to take questions in the lobby if you want. And thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.